Hello everyone, I just wanted to go ahead and make a third vlog video on the creation of my divine wings of the Mass in B minor, and I want to talk about the recording process because it's something I totally skipped over. So I mentioned that I used Audacity at the time, but I didn't talk any about how that works. At the time, I was not very familiar with Adobe Audition, which would have probably been my preferred tool to record it with, but I was recording in my apartment, as you saw, and I'm just gonna go ahead and make a new project here. So I needed a way to record all of the parts. So what you can do in Audacity is, well, I guess you could call this a multi-track session, like it's called here in Audition. And to record each of the tracks, I would play. I had a click track set up. So if we go actually back into my project files here, oh gosh, things are very full. So if we go back into my project files here, so what I did is I had a MIDI export of this arrangement. You can go File, Export, and then you can export as a PDF there, or you can export as an MP3. So what I did, and I'm actually going to make a new session here of Audacity, and I will press R. Oh, here we go. We're going to go Tracks, Add New, Stereo Track. So that's what I did. And I don't have a mic plugged into my computer right now, but the first thing I did was I recorded a metronome onto here, and then I'm going to make a new session of the Audacity here, and I went in and I took that MuseScore thing and I said, okay, open, and then I pressed Control A to copy, Control C. I went back to my first session, and when I paste it, it puts it on a new track. So this track was my metronome, and this other track, and I'll scoot this down just so I have a little time before I play, right? So this track was my metronome, and then this starts, and the whole time this plays, this track is in perfect intonation, not just intonation, but in perfect intonation, so I could listen to the pitch the entire time, and I had a metronome, so it'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then boom, there's my audio, and then I would be recording to a new audio track each time. So after I finish an audio track, all of these tracks are what's called armed. And when it's armed, that means that whatever mic you have routed to that track it's going to be written onto that track. So it can even overwrite if you don't have your settings right. But what you do is what I would do is I would just mute them. And then that allows me and select this track. So that track's selected, it's gray. And then I would record to the next track. And so I repeated that process until I got a good take. So we got audio track. And so I did that until I had the final project here. So it sounds kind of dry. So after I did that, go File, Export, and you can, do all the settings there. And I think I still have the file around. Oop. Yeah, so here's the audition session. Or what I did was I took the mix down. Take 2 mix down. Okay. So open that up in Adobe Audition. So I'm not working with all these other tracks. I'm just going to go ahead and remove them. So in Adobe Audition, you have the master track, which you can apply effects to, so that it applies to all tracks, or you have individual tracks, which you can apply effects to. So, and then you also have this multi-track view, where you can have the multiple tracks, and then you also have the waveform view, where you can sort of diagnose audio a little more individually. So I don't think I used the noise removal in Audition, which I should have, but if we listen right here, and you look at the levels across the bottom, well, there's no noise, I guess I overdid a little bit, but if we go back and we open up, I'll open up my take 1. This one wasn't as good. So I recorded the entire project twice. So yeah, you can see, yeah, here's my metronome. So So there's my metronome and my audition track. And then, but if we go in here and we look at this, and so these are our waveforms. If we scroll all the way in, you can't really see them because it's Audacity doesn't really scale well. And I'm just going to put that on solo, and we can, in Audacity, we can see our levels up here where my mouse is. But there's just that little bit of noise. I'm breathing in there. So what you can do is highlight that area, go Effect, Noise Removal, and Get Noise Profile. And what that's going to do is you can use it to look for that type of sound in other sound. So I'll just click Get Noise Profile, and then what I can do is if I was to actually apply the noise profile here, so and then I go noise removal. Well, because I've got the whole thing highlighted right now. So Effect, noise removal. Okay. It's just a little more thin. But I did want to take out kind of the breaths, all of the in-between. So I did that in Audacity. And then I took that mix down over here in the multi-track session where I can apply effects. And I found, and I think I did the studio reverb. And so what I did, and the important difference between Adobe Audition and Audacity, which is why I finished the project in Audition, is that I can change my effects, so at least some of them, real time, including notably the equalizer. So if I tried to apply an equalizer in Audacity, the file would have to process completely before I knew the outcome. But here's the effect of the studio reverb on my mixdown recording. You hear that taper at the end? I'll play it one more time with the studio reverb on. I can cycle the power of the effect on and off here in the bottom left corner. So. Okay, so I'll cycle it off. It's just a little dry. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that effect on. I like where it is. It doesn't sound way too boomy, but it sounds like I'm playing in a little bit bigger of an environment. The order of the effects also matters. So if I apply a studio reverb and then a phaser, the phaser is going to take the sound that comes through the studio reverb and then apply the phaser to that. But if I apply the phaser before the studio reverb is being applied to the result of the sound after the studio reverb. So another thing I can do to expand or make the sound great on this is use the stereo expander. And what that's going to do is it's going to adjust the timings that the sound arrives to each speaker. And what's important to know is that in a stereo setup, at least in a mixing environment, it should always be set up in a perfect equilateral triangle from the center of your head so that the sound arrival times between the speakers is the same. So, but the reason you don't wear headphones while you mix is because the sound coming out of the right channel would be isolated from the left ear, and the sound from the left channel is completely isolated from the right ear. So that's why you mix on speakers in an equilateral triangle. I'm just using headphones. I only have one speaker on my desk. Speaker's pretty nice. I listen to both, and I try to pick what sounds right. So we'll go back to the beginning here, and we'll listen to it with the stereo expander off. Then I usually like to put this only around 150. I'm going to exaggerate a bit so that it's obvious. We're going to put the stereo expander on and power it on. Here we go. But you can see how that effect really adds a lot more depth to the recording. It sounds like it's being recorded in a much bigger space, and that's why when you record, you pretty much always want to record in a very dry space so that you can put these nice effects on after the fact. The effects that come with Audacity are okay, but the effects packed into Audition generally a lot better. I'm sure Pro Tools is a lot better. I don't do a whole ton of mixing, so I don't have a reason to own Pro Tools. And maybe the last thing we could do is maybe apply an equalizer. And what the equalizer does is, so sounds vibrate at different frequencies. So we can play through my recording, and I really want that bass part to stick out. So I did kind of some of my mixing. So I already did all my mixing here in Audacity. So, but if we go through and we look at all the tracks, you can see that I had to take the gain down on all the tracks quite a lot. And one other note about the setup is that mics are inversely logarithmically sensitive to distance. So if I move 2 inches away from a mic, from my original position, it could be 2 cubed times more times less sensitive than I was originally there. And while I was doing this recording, I was changing my position, rotating, so I could get the arc effect on the final video. So back to mic sensitivity and mixing. So when you're recording, you want to record all the individual tracks. I'm just going to go ahead and pick this one track, so that at the standard sensitivity that is built into the program. So the mic has its own sensitivity, the program has its own sensitivity. I'm not exceeding 0, because if we were to exceed that, and I'll turn my computer volume down so it doesn't kill your ears. But you hear all that nasty buzzing. So if I was to leave all of my tracks at 0, I would actually run into a master volume output of greater than 0, which causes what's called clipping. And you can visually see that by seeing if the view of the waveforms exceeds the space it's allowed to exist in. So Audacity has a built-in feature which will allow you actually to only bring it up to the maximum overall gain for the entire track. But what I did is I put everything at -12 so that my mix across every single one of my tracks, horn 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, only sat all together at -12. So, so all my parts are already balanced, but even though all of my parts are already balanced, I could choose to apply an equalizer to the tracks individually. Had I recorded it in Audition, I might have gone that route if I was to spend a little more time on the project. Or I can apply the effect either to the mixdown or my single track, because it's already all put together. All the audio files are already in one track on either of these tracks, and bring out those, emphasize different frequencies. So if I go through here and I start at 0, and we play some of this, and I'm going to boost these low frequency ranges. You hear how the sound changes. But if we were to like cut some of those highs, and this is very extreme equalizing. Sounds a lot more subtle, smooth. So off and on, here we go. So I can affect the clarity of the project by using an equalizer. And if ever in Audition you want to remove effects, you just click on them and press delete. So after I did that, you already saw how I lined things up in my video editor and resized them. You can check out that video here. That is all I did for the final audio portion of this project. One last thing, so when we're here in Audition, I'm going to go ahead and create some new tracks. I'll go track, stereo, and say I was to record in Audition, I could allow myself to hear myself while I'm playing based on these buttons here. So M is for mute. I can, if we'll scroll up here, I can mute the track, or I can solo the track, meaning play only that track. The R button is for arm for record. So if I had a mic routed to the first track and the second track, different routes, I could go arm for record, and record 2 different sounds to 2 different tracks or more, many more, simultaneously by the state of the arming of the track. Now, an even more handy thing, which I use all the time, is monitor input, which is represented by the I here. It's not represented on this master track, which you can't delete because all of the audio, if you want to affect all the audio, it goes through that master track. So what I do when I'm recording is generally turn on all of those monitor inputs, and you can't monitor the input if you're armed for record. And what that does is it just allows the sound of the mic to be passed through the program. So I hope you guys learned something in this video. I had a lot of fun sharing my knowledge. Check out my other vlogs on this, and have a great day.